So, Donald Trump has been doing these daily coronavirus briefings, and all of a sudden now, the United States is sending warships to Venezuela. Now, listen to the excuse that they're using to do this.
Thousands of sailors, Coast Guardsmen, soldiers, airmen, Marines involved in this operation. We came upon some intelligence some time ago that the drug cartels, as a result of COVID-19, were going to try to take advantage of the situation and try to infiltrate additional drugs into our country. As we know, there's 70,000 Americans die on an average annual basis to drugs. That's unacceptable. We're at war with COVID-19, we're at war with terrorists, and we are at war with the drug cartels as well. This is the United States military. You will not penetrate this country. You will not get past Jump Street. You're not going to come in here and kill additional Americans. And we will marshal whatever assets are required to prevent your entry into this country to kill Americans.
Yes, they are using the war on drugs now as an excuse because, as you all know, Venezuela is such a threat under those economic sanctions and the country that doesn't work because of socialism, right? Let me spell this out as clearly as I can. Venezuela is not a threat to the United States. The United States is a threat to Venezuela, all right, as he just told you. This is nothing but blatant imperialism. The whole point of this is to further crush Maduro, and especially the people of Venezuela who've been suffering relentlessly under these extremely harsh sanctions imposed by the US. There's about 100,000 people who've already died as a result. They make sure that they can't get anything in, no medical supplies, no food, that nobody can buy their oil, which is what they rely on the most. I want to ask you a question. If Venezuela had murdered 100,000 Americans, what would America do? I'll give you a few seconds to guess. Yeah, they would have bombed the shit out of them, right? So why is it okay for the US to kill 100,000 Venezuelans? Huh? Are you going to sit there and tell me that a Venezuelan life is worth less than an American life? What the United States practices against countries it doesn't like, whether it's Syria, Iran, or Venezuela, is economic terrorism, okay? So the United States might be sending warships now to the coast to further increase those sanctions, but they've already been killing Venezuelans, right? So last week, they indicted Maduro with drug trafficking charges, which is about as credible as saying that Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. It's garbage. It's nonsense. It's just made up. It's just, the piece of toilet paper that they hang in front of the public to say, look, bad man, we have to go kill him. Sorry. And we might kill, a few 100,000 people. No biggie. Okay? Y'all be good sheep and go back to work. Make bombs for us. So the United States has charged the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, and 14 members of his inner circle with drug trafficking, narco-terrorism, they call it, corruption and money laundering, and offered a $15 million reward for information leading to Maduro's capture and prosecution. All right? Once again, notice the language? The Maduro regime. Ooh. That means it's somebody we don't like. All right? When they use that word. Regime. Allegedly, they've obtained the support of the Maduro regime, who is allowing them to use Venezuela as a safe haven from which they can continue to conduct their cocaine trafficking and their armed insurgency. Yeah, look, this is the funny part. So here we go. We estimate that somewhere between 200 and 250 metric tons of cocaine are shipped out of Venezuela by these routes. So it's very interesting that they've been able to nail that down to the exact, the exact metric ton. That's very interesting. Because it turns out that it's complete bullshit. The former United Nations Undersecretary Pino Arlachi completely discredited these indications when affirming that there is no illegal drug trade between Venezuela and the United States, except in the twisted fantasy of Trump and his associates. The diplomat, who between 1997 and 2002 headed the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, based his assertion on the latest report of this office and the latest document from the Drug Enforcement Administration of the United States, the DEA. According to the latter, meaning the DEA, 90% of the cocaine introduced into the United States comes from Colombia, 6% from Peru, and the rest from unknown origins. There is no trace of Venezuela on any page of the two documents, said the former UN secretary. So essentially, the entire thing is bullshit. Wait a second. You're telling me that the United States made up something completely out of thin air just to effectuate regime change? No, you're kidding. Just like Saddam has nuclear weapons, right? You remember when Colin Powell went to the UN? He presented all of these fancy diagrams and all of this cooked up, this faked evidence. I mean, look at this. Look at this stupid truck. You call that evidence of weapons of mass destruction? A child could have drawn this. Anyone could have drawn that. They just pulled this stuff out of their asses, saying things like, oh yeah, this source whose name we can't tell you, he told us that Saddam has these magical special trucks, these mobile labs that can build biological weapons, but you just gotta trust us. And look at these cool graphics, right? And said that this was proof that Saddam had nuclear weapons. And then they just invaded Iraq and killed 1 million fucking people to make some money for the military-industrial complex and their friends in the private sector. How can you believe anything they say after this? And they had the reports, oh, they got yellow cake. They got it from Africa. You guys know Black Bush, the Dave Chappelle skit. It's literally a clown show. And this, once again, is another circus. This is just as ridiculous. So Maduro actually responded to all these bogus charges. Take a look at what he had to say.
El gobierno de Donald Trump, en una acción extravagantemente extremista, vulgar, miserable, lanzó un conjunto de acusaciones temerarias, falsas, y como unos cowboys racistas del siglo XIX, le ponen precio a la cabeza de unos revolucionarios que estamos dispuestos a combatirlos en todos los terrenos. Así se lo digo a Donald Trump. Eres un miserable, Donald Trump. Él actúa no solo como un cowboy, racista, supremacista, no solo como eso. Él maneja las relaciones internacionales como un extorsionador de las mafias neoyorquinas que él dirigió como jefe de la empresa inmobiliaria.
So that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. He called Donald Trump a racist cowboy from the 19th century. He should have also called him a lying, dog-faced pony soldier. And what's even more accurate is what he said about the way Donald Trump manages international relations. He's an extortionist. He's like the mafia. And make no mistake, this isn't just Donald Trump. This is regular United States foreign policy since decades, since the Cold War. They cripple you financially, they freeze your assets, they isolate you from the rest of the world, they prop up armed oppositions in your country, they try to overthrow you. I mean, nothing's essentially changed since then. Venezuela is not a major player in the global narcotics trade. United States is, though, and have been for a long time. The CIA runs their own mini drug empire. And then you have Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who, by the way, used to be the director of the CIA. Listen to what he says.
We've made clear all along that Nicolas Maduro will never again govern Venezuela, and that hasn't changed.
Once again, you hear this same rhetoric of Maduro must go, Assad must go, Gaddafi has to go. Dude, who made you the world's police? Who the fuck asked you? Mind your own fucking business and deal with your own country, which has no healthcare system and millions of people being laid off.
The time for transition is now. No more starvation. No more children without medicine. No more repression.
He says no more children without medicine. You're the reason those children don't have any goddamn medicine. Your sanctions made sure of that. The US is sanctioning Venezuela and Iran and not allowing them to have certain medicines and medical equipment. And even with this pandemic going on, they refuse to lift the sanctions despite the UN and the EU telling them to. They just don't care how many people die. It's irrelevant to them. So when Mike Pompeo or any of these people stand there and pretend that, we care so much about the people in Venezuela and Iran and Syria and we just want you to have freedom, just remember who these people really are.
I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
Yeah, what he's forgetting to tell you is that Venezuela also sits on the largest reserve of oil in the world. How convenient, isn't it? This is why they can't keep their hands off of Venezuela, because this is an enormous treasure. Tons of money to be made for the private sector. And as usual, they're going to let their multinational corporations come in, take over, and plunder the country and all of its natural resources. Not to mention, they get to install a bunch of military bases and exert further influence over the entire continent. Don't forget also, Maduro is a socialist, right? And the United States can't tolerate seeing an independent socialist country. No, they have to come in, destabilize it, ruin it, bring it to its knees, and then let the multinationals take it over. Not to mention, Venezuela has close ties with Russia, so weakening them also weakens Russia. Do you understand now why they're after Maduro and why they were after Chavez? These are just further military and economic conquests in the broader scheme of American imperialism. That's it. So in these completely made-up charges against Maduro, they're saying that this fairy tale drug trafficking he's doing is going to cost between 100,000 to 240,000 lives. That's why they're doing it. You know what that reminds me of? It's the Bush doctrine. Huh? It's we have to attack them before they attack us. Sorry, man. Sorry we had to kill 1 million people. We had to do it. Preemptive strikes. This is the same kind of doctrine, right? Am I the only one who notices the irony of these figures they're releasing? What is that? 100,000? 100,000. Gee, I could have sworn I was sitting in this chair not even 48 hours ago, and I was talking about that figure. Where? Oh, that's right. It was Donald Trump. That was Trump telling us that, oh, well, we might have 100,000 deaths, but altogether, we did a very good job. You're telling me Trump is just as dangerous as Maduro? You might find cocaine in the White House. No, but seriously, do you not see the irony here? Like, it's okay for Donald Trump to kill 100,000 Americans through corruption, incompetence, gross negligence. And it's also okay to kill 100,000 Venezuelans through inhumane sanctions. But, we can make up numbers about Maduro and just, go in and send warships to his country. Wow. They got balls. They really do. So Trump said, as governments and nations focus on the coronavirus, there is a growing threat that cartels, criminals, terrorists, and other malign actors will try to exploit the situation for their own gain. As governments focus on coronavirus. Dude, you ain't even focusing on coronavirus. You're the terrorist. You're the terrorist. You can't even give your people fucking masks. There's no respirators. Hospitals got no equipment. Nurses walking up in there with trash bags and dying, getting infected. What the fuck is that? Deal with your own shit, man. You got money to send fucking warships to another continent, but you ain't got money to make fucking respirators and masks and... Yo, the enhanced mission has been months in the making, but has taken on greater urgency following last week's indictment of Maduro, Venezuela's embattled socialist leader and members of his inner circle and military. They are accused of leading a narco-terrorist conspiracy responsible for smuggling up to 250 metric tons of cocaine a year into the US. Yeah, sure. Okay. Who believes this bullshit? Who believes this? This is a fart compared to Iraq. Yo, can I put this into context? Huh? Saddam Hussein, he was accused of having nuclear fucking weapons. That means I can fucking level your country with a nuclear bomb. Do you understand what a nuclear bomb is? I will level it. It's gone. It's atomized. There's nothing left. That's how big the fucking lie was. And then you had Tony Blair come in. Saddam Hussein, he can attack us. He can mount an attack in 45 minutes. 45 minutes. And then the next day, all over the fucking front news, 45 minutes, Saddam Hussein, and all the sheep are going, bah, bah, bah. Getting the general public to like fucking internalize the fear. Oh my God. Yeah, it's true. That's what it's for. They made up all this bullshit, all of it. On top of it, like as if that lie wasn't ridiculous enough, they also said, Saddam Hussein is working with Al-Qaeda. What? Saddam Hussein is a secular Ba'athist leader. Okay, so do you understand what that means? that means Al-Qaeda want to chop his fucking head off because he's a secular leader. And you're telling me that they're working together. Like, that doesn't even make any fucking sense. So they made up all of this nonsense. The yellow cake. The yellow cake from Africa. All of the details. Steaming pound of horseshit just to fuck Iraq up. So this, compared to that, is a fart. And people are still going to fall for it. Even after they know that all of that was a lie. They will fall for this. And it's the same thing with Syria, by the way, huh? You remember the chemical attacks in Syria? In Douma? Yeah, that's all bullshit. I mean, we know it's bullshit for a fact, because the people who went to investigate it, the OPCW, all of them have come out and said, yeah, the report that we had to put out was bullshit because our higher ups suppressed our real findings. It didn't happen. I didn't need to wait for that report to know that it was bullshit because I know that they lied about Iraq. How can you believe anything they say after Iraq? So this is horseshit. That's my point. Let's be very clear on what this is, okay? The United States, they've been trying for a while now to get rid of Maduro. And they're like, oh, well, we can't. It's not working. We tried suffocating his people with sanctions, economic sanctions, financial sanctions. Have any business dealings, we'll freeze all your assets, your accounts, all of them. You know who gets real hurt? The people, the 60,000 people that have died so far. It's probably more. What about all the other ones who aren't dead and still suffering? Is that okay? Of course not. A huge, huge toll on the civilian population. And they've been trying that for a while now, right? They can't get rid of him. So now they made up this fairy tale. Oh, he's the head of a global drug conspiracy. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. And Saddam had nuclear weapons. Okay, I believe you. So now they're sending the warships to intimidate him. Yes, because knock knock, Uncle Sam is here. Doesn't mean they're going to invade for sure, although they might. You know, Latin America is like it's like the Middle East for the U.S. It's just a playground. Just walk in whenever we like, fuck your shit up, kill your people, and then, you know, take your resources, put our multinational corporations in, let them plunder your land. So what they could be doing now with the ships is imposing a naval blockade, right? Doesn't mean they're planning a land invasion. In World War II, okay, one of the reasons that Hitler invaded Russia was for the oil. Because the British, as many of you know, had the best navy in the world for a few hundred years up until this point. And they had imposed a naval blockade. Germany got no fucking oil. How are you going to invade Europe and the rest of the world with no fucking oil? You can't do it. So they're like, well, where can we find oil? The Russians got some. Let's go there. That's why they invaded Russia. One of the main reasons, anyway. Of course, you know, there was also the ideological aspect of it. Oil is very important, and naval blockades are very effective. So you can see here from the graphic that the DoD published, the US Navy is going to have ships on both sides, so both in the Caribbean and in the Pacific Ocean. So they could easily impose a naval blockade and effectively landlock Venezuela and besiege the country, blocking anything from coming in and anything from going out. This is ruthless imperialism and intimidation of people in the global south, and it's not just in Venezuela. I mean, they're in Syria right now. And they don't care, man. It's all about making money for the military-industrial complex. You know, whether it's Trump or Obama or Bush, it makes no fucking difference. It's the same shit year in, year out. It makes no difference. I really wish the people of Venezuela well. I hope nothing happens.